The new season of Jujutsu Kaisen has been great, surpassing pretty much everyone's expectations, and few have the spotlight more than this man right here, Toji Fushiguro. But when you get down to it, he really doesn't do much. I mean, he comes in out of nowhere in a flashback arc, kills Gojo, but not really, and then dies. And with just that, he's a fan favorite. And I'm no different, I love this dude too. So here's a video on why Toji Fushiguro is a perfect villain. The core thing to get at with a villain is their relationship with their respective protagonist. We see this with Yuji and the main villains of Jujutsu Kaisen. He's just this kid trying to find his place in the world and do the best he can with a very human sense of morality. So naturally, his main villains are the most inhuman, evil curses that the series has to offer. Mahito and Sukuna are irredeemable monsters. They test and torment Yuji with sadistic glee, and because of this, Yuji is forced to grow as a character, building a very strong dynamic between these characters. However, Toji isn't Yuji's villain. He's Gojo's villain, and he is very different from almost any other antagonist in the series. Whereas Yuji's greatest villains are the worst curses to contrast his humanity, that doesn't really work with Gojo. Gojo has no delusions about the world of curses, considering he grew up in Jujutsu society. But that doesn't mean he has no room for change, and that is where Toji comes in. Toji is the perfect villain for Gojo because he is the ultimate underdog, and I know he's an underdog because not only was Gojo confident he could win, I didn't see a single person watch this anime and be concerned about Toji. Everyone thought this dude would just get one shot like the rest of them. Oh, you're gonna wear Gojo down? Can you even do that? No one had faith in him whatsoever because everyone had the same mindset. Gojo is unbeatable. And that kinda is just how it is. Really, every antagonist in Jujutsu Kaisen is an underdog, even Sukuna, because everyone just accepts that Gojo is the strongest. And yeah, in a straight up fight, Toji is gonna have a tough time, definitely reasonable. So he has to plan, he has to scheme, he has to throw enemy after enemy at them just to tire the guy out. But when everything comes into place for him, it's genuinely shocking. He absolutely decimates Gojo and Geto, and he takes out Amanai with no trouble. And what makes this work so well with Toji is his blatant humanity. Even his abilities are just what humans can do, but better, as well as whatever tools he can get his hands on. That's as human as it gets. But that humanity is also in who he is. On the surface, Toji is the definition of a villain. As far as people go, not many are worse than the ones who kill for money. On the outside, he's a monster, but that's really something he's forced on himself. Forcing himself to disregard all things, all sense of either morals or ego. He went so far as to abandon his own child, convincing himself he didn't actually care. He even takes the job to kill Amanai for the money, but then ends up taking pleasure in the fact that he beats the strongest sorcerers, despite all their gifts. He knows he's an underdog and revels in taking out the top, although he only admits this when it's too late. It's like he was trying so hard to deny his humanity, but he couldn't, and those petty emotions that make him so human are what ended up getting him killed. His desire for self-affirmation may be the most human quality of all, and these qualities make him the perfect villain for Gojo. Gojo is very different. He basically won the genetic lottery when it comes to superpowers. There's really no other way to put it. And because of this, he's definitely full of himself, to the point where just the concept of moralizing things is a waste of time to him. His power exists without grand purpose. He's just the strongest guy around, and he's gonna do what he wants because he can. He's laid back because he can afford to be. I mean, he just hears about how Rico is gonna be erased, and the first thing he can think of is to compare it to Digimon. He's not totally heartless as we do see, but he also doesn't feel the need to take things seriously most of the time. Toji both challenges this attitude and reinforces it. On one hand, Toji taught Gojo a very valuable lesson. Despite being the strongest, Gojo can fail. Even though Gojo can do anything, he will fail to accomplish almost anything that actually matters. This would become the trend of Gojo's life, as we see with Geto. And it would also become the reason that he endeavors to change things outside of brute force. He can kill anyone he wants, but that doesn't mean he can change anything how he likes. In this way, Toji changed Gojo forever. And this goes both ways, with Gojo briefly losing himself to his immense power awakening and his sense of detachment going to the extreme, as if attaining enlightenment to the point point where he exclaims, "Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one," directly quoting the Buddha. And fun fact, with Toji referring to himself as a monkey who can't even use Jujutsu, this likely makes the battle between him and Gojo a reference to the battle between Buddha and the Monkey King of Chinese mythology, which is a very fair comparison because it would be generous to call either of these fights. When faced with such incredible godlike power, Toji is forced to confront the qualities that make him human, a mortal man, as those qualities become his undoing. Now this is already a great dynamic. Toji would already be a good villain with just this. But he isn't just Gojo's villain, he's also the perfect villain for Geto. In the Hidden Inventory arc, Geto is the total opposite of Gojo. He is determined to find meaning in his actions and his strength. To him, there has to be meaning to violence, especially when it is committed by the strong. And as one of the strongest, this sense of responsibility weighs heavily on him. However, this is just how he appears on the surface. In truth, this sense of duty and this set of morals are just things he tells himself. Constantly, he is faced with the very human evils that exist in this world. Curses that can only come from human beings, from the weak he is sworn to protect. And unlike anyone else, that duty to protect the weak as the strongest calls on him to consume and taste that bitter evil. Exercise and consume. And so he tells himself that this is his duty. This is what is right for the strong to do. What a noble sacrifice bestowed upon him. In this way, Toji and Geto are total opposites. One pushes down their humanity to be a monster, while the other pushes down their true cruelty to parrot the morals he was taught. And it is because of Toji that Geto begins to change. Geto changes due to a lot of factors, but it all starts with Toji. Him losing his position as one of the strongest, his inability to ignore the human evils that are all around him, his desire to do something about his situation. All of these things started to come forth when Toji shot Riko Amanai right in front of him, sending him on a downward spiral that never stopped. And that's why Toji is such a phenomenal villain. He comes out of nowhere in a flashback arc, acts as a perfect foil for two major characters, causing them to change forever, and has his own small character arc in return. The story of Jujutsu Kaisen as we know it doesn't exist without Toji, and he did that in 4 episodes. Barely 15 chapters of the manga. The writing behind his character is so efficient and effective, only leaving you wanting more screen time from him. What an incredible antagonist to burst onto the scene of modern shonen. But yeah, that's the video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to show some support. You can even become a member to support the channel more directly. But that's all I've got right now, so for now, take care and have a good one.